Just so we have for the record, you've been requested to turn me away.
That's correct.
I can't come into the event.
You cannot come into the event. This is private property.
So why can't? Do you have a reason why?
I'm not going to interview this. I'm not going to debate it with you. Time to turn around.
I'm not going to get my $1,000 back?
No.
So $1,000 I don't get back.
You've donated to Hope Choice. Thank you very much.
But
time to go.
But
Hello and welcome everyone to another edition of High Plains Media News. We have a breaking update, and today I am joined by Chris Jackson.
Hello. Hey everybody.
Hey Chris, so welcome to the channel, man. I'm really happy to be talking to you. A lot of people already know you're already getting a lot of traction for this, but you had bought a ticket to attend the Charlie Kirk event in Canyon, Texas last night.
Yeah. Hosted by Hope Choice Clinic and everything, yeah.
So Hope Choice Clinic invited Charlie Kirk to come into a secret venue in Canyon, Texas. The tickets were $1,000, and it was even advertised, I believe, on public radio that this was the ability to debate Charlie Kirk.
Yeah.
And so money's for to raise the $1,000 to go debate Charlie Kirk.
Yeah, and so the whole thing is presented as an event where you can debate Charlie Kirk, and then there's other language where I'll open in a Q&A and a discussion. Either way, I was interested in just talking to Charlie Kirk, debating, whether it be in a discussion format, a Q&A format, about some of his beliefs and policies, and hopefully being able to document it. But I think it's also interesting that they were extremely secretive about the event and didn't disclose its location until after you had paid.
Yes, so I actually had a lot of people reaching out to me, seeing if I knew anything about the address of the event. I didn't try to cover it as media. I kind of suspected that no one would be able to, since the address and location was so secretive, which number one, I didn't like that personally. This is my opinion, but I don't like the fact that there were so many citizens involved with wanting to know where this was, and the cost of knowing where it was $1,000. And so, first of all, already feels like something's being hidden, and that is the address, right? And secondly, I understand there's like security reasons and things like that, but from what I can see from your videos, security force was fully there in detail. The local PD knew that he would be there. So, I believe that citizens have a right to gather, and that they shouldn't be blocked from where they feel they should be able to gather. But either way, it turns out that you bought this ticket to go debate Charlie Kirk, and you didn't even get let in. It looks like you were barred from entry.
Yeah, I didn't even make it near the building. Honestly, there's a whole path that leads down to where the event is, and I was stopped by, I already knew something wasn't right because other cars in front of me got to really pass without very little hesitation. And when they stopped me, the cars behind me were directed to just drive around me and just go through.
Okay.
And so they made me wait there for just a few minutes, but by that time I was already like posting on social media because I felt uncomfortable being singled out. But I was already posting on social media that like, hey, they stopped me. This doesn't feel right. This definitely feels racist. And for the most part, I was right about all those things. And eventually the head security guy just informed me that they didn't want me there, which I will say, fine. Like, if you don't want me there, if you don't want to debate those ideals, I wish you would have told me before I drove all the way over here. I wish you would have told me before I had paid you. And by that point, especially since the location was hidden and I didn't realize that I would be, miles off the main road back in someone's private property for an event, I didn't really want to be around those people just from how they were approaching me to begin with. So that part, I'm not really going to contest too much. If people want to hide behind closed doors, that's fine. But trying to tell me outright that you're not going to give me my money back and, thanks for your donation and trying to be snarky about it is not something I'm cool with at all.
So why can't? Do you have a
I'm
reason
not going
why?
to interview this. I'm not going to debate it with you. Time to turn around.
I'm not going to get my $1,000 back.
No.
So $1,000 I don't get back.
You've donated to Hope Choice. Thank you very much.
I mean, personally, I think you should have been allowed to enter. I don't think you should have been judged for how I saw in the video he said where you raised the funds. I mean,
I'm fine with leaving, but I'm not fine with spending $1,000 and not getting my
You
money
raised
back.
$1,000 on YouTube, brother. I know what you did.
Yeah.
It's not like it came out of your pocket.
anybody who saves up $1,000 or comes up with $1,000 raised funds for a
Yeah.
reason or another. And we are often told we're not allowed to judge them for how those funds were raised. I don't think that you should have been judged for how you raised the funds to be there step by step. So you had your ticket scanned, and were they just, as soon as they scanned your ticket and looked at you, were they just like, pull over here, sir, and pretty much?
Oh no, they didn't even scan my ticket. They didn't
Okay.
care that I had a ticket.
So do you
As
feel
soon
that
as
you were
they
sort of
saw me.
spotted as soon as you were on property?
Yeah, as soon as they realized that, a black guy basically was coming down, that it had to have been me. And I know that the reason why I can know for a fact that they just spotted a black person and then they had to confirm if I was the black person that didn't need to be here is because they saw me. I saw them speak on their radio. They slowed me down, and then they had to go confirm with Hope Choice or whoever whether or not that they would let me in. Then they were informed, I guess, in that little brief exchange of time that no, we don't want him here. Which again, cool, but also like, yeah, now I know where you stand on things.
Yeah, I just want to make sure that everybody kind of feels your experience, number one, because I feel that you were wronged, and I want to just be no gray area as to how things really proceeded, to make you feel and how they proceeded in what order. So I saw through the video that's going popular, and we'll put this in this video, is that the head of security, that was not, was he head of security with Hope's Choice, I guess the security of the event?
That's that part I don't know. So I'm not sure if I can. He's saying that Hope Choice didn't want me there, but as far as Hope Choice hiring him, I'm not sure.
Right.
And as far as Hope Choice, as far as if it could have been the person who owned the property, if they hired him, that's also a possibility. So I do want to be entirely clear about that. And everything up to this point for the most part, I didn't have documented.
Right.
But whenever I heard that they weren't letting me in, that's when I started recording. Whenever they started saying, well, we'll get the cops and we'll force you to turn around, that's when I started recording.
Right.
Because I want to make it clear is that I wasn't being rebellious in protest. I didn't even, whenever I paid the ticket, release or disclose the location. I wasn't trying to be disruptive. And I think when people try and place a lot of people in support of Charlie, when they try to label me as someone who was going to be disruptive, I honestly think that's just dog whistling. Because like, what am I? Just because I'm black, I can't exchange in discussion. I can't attend a venue. I can't be around in that open arena. If you want to have a discussion, if you don't, that's fine. But I think a lot of the rhetoric that is like, well, they were just turning you around because of not your race, just your beliefs. And barring all of that nonsense, the feeling I got, especially before I started recording, was definitely that it had to do with my race, or at a minimum, they just were scared of what I was going to say. And either way, I don't think that the immediate response should be is that we're taking your money and you need to leave.
Right, so I think that's what I was going to bring up, is that it's an interesting amount of detail that the security officer that may not be a direct representative of Hope Choice would have basically the authority to say that your money has not been returned. But to disclose, I saw your post earlier to update everybody.
Yeah.
Apparently your funds have been given back.
Yeah, and that's what I was just about to say. I was like, thankfully the funds have been returned. So as far as this incident, this event, I don't care. Honestly, Charlie Kirk and people who side with that ideal, to me, are cowards. Because my main argument is that, like, the whole persona of this group of people, aside for us focusing on specifically women's health care, women's rights, and which is the main thing I wanted to discuss and actually challenge their ideals on, is that y'all are ardent capitalists. Y'all defend capitalism to the extent of your heart's content. And so even you should feel a little bit uncomfortable with someone paying money and not getting the services they wanted. I mean, I don't know if this guy even had the authority to say, hey, we're not going to refund your funds. I'm not sure if he had the right or the ability to say that. So I don't want to discredit Hope Choice. And that could have just been the spur of the moment thing for him. But for the fact that he was able to signal, like, hey, I know what you are. I know what you did. And I know you raised your money and that's not your money. I was like, well, if it's not my money, it's definitely not yours. And I think also an extension of that, I think it's interesting that they would think that they would have the right to keep my money as a donation, because I don't know if I wasn't as vocal or if I wasn't as well known as I am, that I would ever get my money back. If I was just extremely nobody, I'm already just a guy, but if I was literally someone with no platform, with no speaking ability, with no outreach, without an ability to raise funds and be very public about it, I'm not entirely confident that I would get my money back. There's a part of me that wholeheartedly believes that they would just keep the funds, because to them, who cares?
And this is speculation, but what we've heard from the community is that basically the reason the funds were so high and the location was so secretive is so that no individuals who were not of the like mind of Kirk and Hope Choice and the people who were attending that event would be barred from entry. And you tested that and then were given results, a very affirming executed results. That is exactly what that speculation was leading towards. And
Yeah.
honestly, the whole story just makes me wonder what encourages you to throw yourself in that situation, because it sounds a little bit like you were totally willing to run into the lion's den, and were sort of treated in that way.
Yeah, and I would say run into the lion's den in a public place. I quickly felt like, oh
I guess
no,
that's
I
just the
am deeper than
gladiators
the
ring at
lion's
that point,
den
isn't
by
it?
the time it was on private property. Yeah, I definitely was not near as comfortable as I would have been having an exchange with Charlie Kirk. And so, like, again, I'm not saddened that I didn't get to debate him or be around him, but I think the assertions that it's to exclude people. One, the monetary amount is a fact, because they want, if not racism, it's classism at best. Not anyone can just shell out $1,000, and especially if they're going to admonish you because you raise the funds. So
I
there's
mean,
definitely a barrier of entry.
most political campaigns are off raised funds. The people
Yeah,
they
yeah.
supporting raise funds all the time.
They raise funds, and they know this, and I'm not going to disclose names of people who um, donated to me, but there's people that don't even share my same views that donated just because they wanted to see the exchange, just because they wanted to know what that would be like. And to their detriment, and to me saying I told you so, is that a lot of people don't want to defend these views. But barring that, even putting that to the side, the next thing I would say that is a barrier of entry is that there is a dress code. Like, so one thing that's also not public, and you don't really find out until after you've paid. So not only just the location, I guess they're hoping that they can get your money, and hoping, because you have to be in casual dress, but I was wearing a three-piece suit because that's just who I am. And you also have to wear cowboy boots explicitly, is what it's stated. And so, yeah, I can send you my ticket information with like the whole dress code at the
Oh my
bottom.
goodness.
Yeah, you have to fit a persona. And I think also the pricing for how the tickets are is indicative of some other outliers as to why they may not like certain people there. For example, it's 1,000 per person, 1,500 per couple, which is emphasis on couple. And I'm not sure if you don't fit a traditional view of couple, if
Right.
they would have let anyone else in.
But
Yeah, because if I already don't fit kind of the perception of who they want, and I'm not really that other than maybe skin tone, really that confrontational. Because another thing too is that throughout the video, it's all right if you disagree with me. Heck, they're usually the main group of people that are saying we can disagree and still be friends, and sure, whatever,
Right.
fine.
Yeah.
But I think that how they treat me definitely had the racial undertones because I know just off the inflection of my voice, I wasn't really being assertive. I was only really being inquisitive. Like I wasn't trying to force my way into the event. My only question was really about the funds because again, just as he notates, it's not really my funds. It's something I raised. And so I want people to get their money back at a minimum, or we can do something else with those funds. Because what people were expecting was for me to debate Charlie Kirk, or at least have a discussion with Charlie Kirk. And also, another reason why I recorded wasn't just for my safety, because I honestly didn't want to reach for my phone just because of the cops being around there, and you have to be very careful as a black person reaching for anything in your car. But I also wanted people to have proof that I was turned away, and I wanted him to recite what he had told me because it is extremely sketchy if I spend a week raising funds to do something, and I'm like, oh, sorry guys, they just wouldn't let me in, and I definitely ain't just harboring or hiding $1,000 somewhere. Like, no, I
Well,
need to.
I mean, to be able to raise that money, how long did it take? And you launched it pretty quick.
Yeah, I launched it the day I found out, which was a Thursday, and the event was yesterday, which was a Thursday. So
A
in
week.
less than a week, the day right before the
Wow.
event, I had gotten all the funds.
Wow.
For
So I
the
want to just say that to me is a testament to the faith that the community did have in you to deliver.
Oh yeah,
That's for
yeah,
sure.
without a doubt. And that's not that I'm really worried about accusations of like you that I would have mishandled the money.
Right.
And now I have plans to either
I think the
feed the
statement's just
homeless and do a
about
few other
how
things.
much
But
people did look forward to just getting to hear the debate.
yeah,
As a well-known debater. But what confuses me as well is that I didn't know who Kirk was until I heard about him coming to town too. I'll admit. I had to kind of deep dive who this guy was. And what I found was this huge YouTube platform where it's essentially him built off of debating young adults, people very close to your age, if not a lot younger than you,
oh yeah,
and or either just having himself at parties where people are just of the entire like mind and not questioning him at all. And so I almost find it interesting that he himself wouldn't almost want to protect that image of that he is open for always debating people and winning them apparently.
yeah, and they're shielding it behind the, well, this is a private event. This was a private event. This isn't one of Charlie Kirk's things. And my argument to that is that, look, do I think that Charlie Kirk specifically said, I'm afraid to debate this guy? No, probably not. Do I think that I could debate Charlie Kirk easily? Without a doubt, I could have this discussion with anybody on any given day. I'm not intimidated by Kirk. But what I do think is that no one would expect me to change Charlie Kirk's mind, but I think the real threat is the people that support the idea would not be as confident in their ideals if they heard me speak. Because the whole thing about Charlie Kirk is he ambushes people. He pops up on a campus. Usually it's around a bunch of freshmen who may have the right minds and even have, in my argument, the right position, but not necessarily the know-how to, one, debate someone as skilled as Charlie Kirk, but because he is a skilled public speaker and he is good at, in my opinion, bad faith arguments, but getting sound bites or hitting buzzwords and making people look like they don't know what they're talking about. And then two, if they're young and they don't know, they haven't completed their degree, they haven't, honestly, the topic they're discussing isn't even their area of expertise, then they get made to look like a fool because they don't have readily on mind their information. Any prepared debate that you see Charlie Kirk entertain, he usually gets upset, and I don't mean emotionally, I mean as far as if you're scoring the debate, he usually gets turned out to be not knowledgeable on the topic, which my only goal in any of this was to really just have him defend his worldview. I didn't actually, from my approach and a lot of videos I posted throughout the week as fundraising, my approach wasn't to just go there and scream and yell that I'm pro-choice and this is why. I really wanted to have Charlie defend his worldview and build out what his world would look like under those policies. But that's an alternate universe where I didn't get stopped way before I even got to the building.
Okay.
So
Yeah, where the stone walls didn't go up and the security alarms. Sir Chris Jackson just walked into the building.
yeah, and It's very telling that I guess for paying attention to me throughout the week, which I really wish if they didn't want me there, they would have told me in advance because we could have avoided any of that, especially when I say putting my life on the line. I don't want to be, I'm not being facetious when I say that. The reason why I decided to actually drive away throughout the middle of the video is because they're bringing out another set of officers. And so I was like, no, we're not doing this. This
Right.
is not worth dying for.
Right.
Plenty of people actually are already dying because of some of these beliefs, but that's a whole point to be made in a debate.
Well,
I think that,
perhaps. Sorry, go ahead and finish.
and so I was like, I think that, at the end, now that the money has been returned and I can do something else with that donation of funds that people would support and probably do something more impactful other than trying to share a message that may or may not fall on deaf ears. So
Right. Well, hopefully we can help you with that. And I can't provide you a debate, but for the last 10 minutes, I will, or as much time as you would like, I will allow you to say the points and topics that you wanted to debate over and where you stand with them, because they wouldn't hear you out, but the least we can do with High Plains Media is to give you that platform to let your message finally be addressed.
awesome. So I can do that very quickly within that time frame. How much time did you say? Like the last 10 minutes or so?
9.
Nine.
Sorry,
I'm burning my time. All right.
seconds.
I'll make it very short. So where I wanted to take this discussion with Charlie Kirk is that me and him are never going to agree where life begins. I believe that it's at 24 weeks when a human being is viable, when they can actually walk, breathe, and do everything on their own separate of the mother, because I believe before that point, they are no more identifiably different than the organ. However, he believes life begins at conception, so we're already at an impasse. So where I would really focus in on the discussion is, all right, so can we agree that a woman herself is a living being and that an infant obviously post-birth is a living being? And I would assume under a sane realm of debate, he would agree that a walking woman, breathing woman, or a birth child is a human being. Fine. We can just start our discussion there why forced birth is a very dangerous policy. Because whenever you force every single birth or pregnancy, you will see an increase in deaths with both women and infants. Right now, since the ending of early pregnancy termination in Texas, as far as with the reversal of the 1973 Roe v. Wade decision, we have seen an increase in infant mortality, meaning there is an additional 250 infants that are killed within Texas alone. Texas has also seen an increase in more maternal deaths as well, a 53% increase, while the rest of the United States has only seen about 11% increase. And for the 250 infant deaths, again, I have all my sources on that. That's Jamil 2022. As far as the increase in mothers' deaths, that's Pabayo 2024. So I have all the sources and information for this. But continuing on with that argument, my question would be to him is, if you know that policies are advocating and creating more death, are you truly pro-life? That's my first question. Now, even in face of more mothers dying and more infants dying because of these policies, that, again, these should be medical decisions that women make, I would say that if he still for some reason feels like it's a genuine policy or a good policy, I would then ask him, okay, if you believe that murder is what's happening in the form of abortion, and we can agree that women are actually dying because of your policies, and you believe that someone should be held accountable for murder, should you, who support these policies that are killing women in the hospital, or should the Supreme Courts that are ruling that women must carry these pregnancies to term and die, should they be held accountable for murder? And when I have this discussion with people who believe in forced birth or they claim to be pro-life, they never will say that they're willing to go to jail for this policy. They're never willing to say that the Supreme Courts that rule in these decisions that might end a woman's life should go to jail. And even in a more graphic sense, when we're talking about, again, infant mortality is increasing, the argument that they may make is like, well, if they're being aborted, they're going to die anyway, so how are you changing any part of this discussion? I will concede that under their worldview that I would be also killing an infant in their eyes. Again, I believe viability matters, but even if we play into their realm, I would say that a fetus that I believe is no different than an organ being terminated under a medical decision that could A, save a woman's life, and B, allow them to be around for their existing children that they may already have, or C, allow them to birth a healthy, viable child in the future, is far more humane than a woman who has to watch a infant that doesn't have a fully developed skull screaming out with its not fully developed lungs. There are plenty of stories that women can give of very horrific instances where either it's a stillbirth or where they are listening to the most inhumane, screeching, crying of an infant that doesn't have a fully developed body. Lastly, one of the other points that I would want to bring up with Charlie is that he doesn't understand that IUDs can kill zygotes. He admittedly doesn't understand that. He also doesn't understand tubal pregnancies, because tubals are whenever the fetus gets stuck in the fallopian tubes and it's not a viable pregnancy, and that can cause women to bleed to death. And so if those women are also murderers and it would also end their lives, then you're not pro-life, because you would force them to bleed to death. And so giving all this information between not knowing that these laws cause more women to die, not knowing what an IUD is, not knowing that a fetus can develop in the tubes and it still isn't a viable pregnancy. Viability is the most humane standard for knowing when life begins and how we as a society can prevent the murder of more infants, more women, and create more viable pregnancies and actually promote life. Disregarding if he disagrees with all of that, my final question to Charlie would be is that if you're not the most well-versed person on when pregnancy happens, how pregnancies terminate naturally, or how pregnancies themselves are not viable and how they can lead to death way before you would ever have a say in the situation, do you think you are the most educated person to speak on this policy? Because Charlie Kirk, undoubtedly, far more than me, has an extremely large platform. But the question to Charlie should be, and that he should have to answer, is that if you don't know anything about this, it's fine. That's my whole argument. This is between a woman and her doctor. They know what's best for their body. They know if they have a tubal pregnancy. They know if their child was going to be healthy or not. They know if the pregnancy is viable or not. You can't legislate a policy that is going to encompass every single woman's bodily health. It is different woman to woman, and racially, because of this country, different race to race. You can even figure that out according to the CDC 2024, that in Texas, since the ending again of early pregnancy terminations, there's been an increase with women, 20% mortality rate, with Hispanic women as well, and Black women even more than that. For white women, it's about, for every 100,000 births, there's about 20 deaths. For Hispanic women, it's been an increase to about 16 deaths per 100,000 women. And then for African American women currently in Texas, it is a 36 out of 100,000 pregnancies is going to result in their death. Interpret that however you want, but what needs to be understood is you can try and not care about all the facts you want, but even under your own worldview, you are not promoting the one thing that you say you're defending, which is life. And so if you're not versed to defend that, don't speak on it. If you don't know the facts, don't share misinformation. That's all you have to do. No one is asking you to speak on something that you do not understand.
Okay, wow, very well said, Chris. And you took up just about as much time as you had. So
yeah, I can talk all day, so I tried to cut myself short.
I can too. Well, that's going to wrap us up for today. This was a fantastic interview. I'm really glad to have this story with you and to be helping you share it. We're probably going to get it out pretty quick. I'll go ahead and stop the video here, but we'll go ahead and bid you adieu, Chris, and I'm glad you're doing well, and I'm glad you got out of there safe, and I'm glad to see that the funds are either being redistributed or going to something that everybody supports, that supported you. So,
yeah, of course. And honestly, like I said, it's probably better this way anyway, because I don't really support Hope Plus Choice Clinic all that much anyways. I don't, like I said, I don't disagree with all of their services, but some of it's not something I would support, especially on the messaging. And obviously after this, like, you're going to treat me like I'm some national level threat.
Right.
And
wow, FBI's most wanted pulled in.
Yeah, I was like a public enemy number one around there. And one thing that we didn't catch in the interview that I was also going to say is that, like, you can tell even by the people and their views that it was definitely racist centric. Because as I'm exiting, the views that people were giving me on the way out the gate and how they were questioning, like, well, are you trying to block this event? No, bro, I'm literally leaving. Like, it's fine. It's not that
Interesting.
deep.
Very interesting. Well, okay. Well, we will be reaching out to Hope's Choice. We will probably give them 24 hours to make a statement.